I left that gathering of 19 states, 75 of our colleagues from across the country, and I came back and said, I've got to do everything in my power to get states meeting together in convention.
I tease people often that I can help them memorize the Constitution in 30 seconds or less. Are you ready for this? 4 words. If government, which government? The entire Constitution. If government, did the sovereign people, where all the power resides, did they delegate the matter to government? There's a lot of things that we didn't. Who we associate with, what we believe, our religious perspectives, speech, we didn't delegate those things to any government. The people didn't delegate those. So if government, there are a lot of things that the people said no. But the second question is, if government, which government? And which government matters. And the whole Constitution then is about which government. If it was delegated to government, was it delegated to a government farther away? That by definition is less transparent and less accountable, but it is more powerful. Or was it reserved to a government closer to the people, where it's more accountable, more transparent, and it preserves the diversity of unique communities? And that was the genius of the Constitution. If we delegated it to government, which government did we delegate it to? And over time, that balance was critical to securing the rights of the people.
We've never had an Article 5 convention before. If we ever have one, I can tell you right now, it will be the greatest political event in your lifetime. It'll be the equivalent of the Olympics coming to Denver, like when the Olympics came to Atlanta. Greatest event in the history of Atlanta in my lifetime.
And when you look at America, what happens in America, we have something absolutely unique. In fact, it was revolutionary. The people are sovereign. That didn't exist anywhere else in the world, and it still doesn't exist. The people are sovereign. We're a nation of kings and queens. We're a nation of self-governing citizens, and that's what the Constitution was meant to establish. The Constitution was meant to secure the rights of the people.
So some of those questions are, how many? How many do we want to send? What will their qualifications be? Who can nominate a delegate? And who confirms the delegates?
And as we heard from Representative Gentile, this is not left-right. This is not Republican-Democrat. This is not progressive and conservative. This is about the balance in this constitutional structure that amplifies the voice of our people. Without that balance, they have no voice.
But back in September 2017, 19 states came together. That was the first time since 1861 that all 50 states for a national convention had been invited. And kudos and credit to the Arizona legislature for taking leadership in that regard.
What we learn at the local level informs what we need to do at the state level, and that informs what we need to do at the federal level. And I think you're correct, absolutely correct, in that Article 5 provides a vehicle for the states to come together, to get together, come together, and make a change.
I think the main reason is, frankly, by virtue of how presidential electors are selected, and by virtue of the fact that they promise to do something, and by virtue of the fact that the people from their friends and their community expect them to do what they say, that has an enormous influence on what they will do.
What this effectively did is it made a runaway not just illegal, not just improbable, not just immoral. It made it impossible. You could not vote against the way you promised, because if you did, your vote would be invalid.
So we would have to get someone within the delegation of a state to convince the other members of his state, with their state legislature watching over their shoulder, to then come in and advocate to go outside that scope. And then they're going to have to convince a majority of other delegations from the other states to go outside their scope, convince all of the members to vote as a state for them to go outside the scope, and then propose it on the floor, and the president on the floor to accept that even as a motion without ruling them out of order, and the entire floor to not overrule the judgment of the presiding officer, even assuming they would rule, which you and I would both say is completely ridiculous, and then they would have to send it out to the states without someone going to the Supreme Court and saying, hey, wait a minute, we're going to enjoin this because you're so far out of your scope, and then that would have to go out to the states and somehow be ratified by 38 states.
I think we're safe.
I think we're about as safe as we can be. There's no sure bet in life, but I think we're pretty close.